In this segment, we're going to be talking about camera views. To access the different camera view menus, you select the View menu on the left menu bar, and you have three different options. The top one is the multi-camera view, and that's the most widely used camera view of the InSync Web UI. I'm going to bring you over to a specific intersection here so we can look at each component and what everything means on this multi-camera view. So I get a lot of questions is, okay, what is all this data, or what are all these numbers that are being displayed on the camera view? What does it mean? Well, I'm going to go through each area of the screen and describe what each one means. So let's start in the top right, and in the top right of each camera view, and in this case, let's start up at the eastbound camera. In the top right, you'll see a number up there, and that's what the current period length is. And that's, at this given instant, what the period length is currently operating at. If you follow it clockwise down from the top right, you'll see a few numbers, or a couple numbers here right below it. Those are the wait time or wait times for the different phases on that camera view. So in this case, if you follow that row all the way back to the left, you'll see a phase 6 and a phase 1 on this camera view. So that means that there's a left turn phase and a through phase. The wait time reports based on how long a car has been waiting while the light has been red. So in this case, phase 6 is currently green, meaning that it's reporting a 0-second wait time. However, if you look right below that for phase 1, you'll see that there's a wait time currently of 92 seconds for phase 1. And that means the first car that shows up on a red light will begin that counter. Okay, if we follow it down to this middle section here, you'll see the light return. So InSync reads the current light status off the cabinet or controller and displays it on the web UI. In this particular case, phase 1 is red and the adjacent phase 6 is green. If you look right below that, there's a couple numbers. The first one, immediately below the light return, is the current queue that InSync is calculating. So if we look at a few of these lanes, you'll see that currently InSync is calculating a queue of 4 vehicles on the left turn, 2 vehicles on the through lane, and then in all the other lanes, there's no cars in the present segments, which are usually the first 2 or 3 segments of a detection zone. So that means that it's not counting a queue in any of the lanes with no presence segments triggered. Now with the queue is a estimate based on detection segments drawn by the agency. So it doesn't have to be 100% accurate. It just needs to be in the ballpark. And the reason it doesn't have to be 100% accurate is that InSync actually recomputes those values every second. So as it's changing or as cars are dissipating, InSync can autocorrect those cues that it's seen automatically, and it can adjust them second by second. I think in general, we do prefer it to be a little bit more conservative, and we would rather it overestimate vehicles than underestimate. Right below the current queue, you'll see a value in parentheses. That value is the current 15-minute traffic count for that lane. So in this case, at each 15-minute increment over the course of a day, that counter resets. So what this means is that there have been 16 vehicles that have came through on phase 1 in this lane in 7 minutes and 34 seconds. And I'm getting that from the time up here at the top, which gives you the current date and time. So it's actually 4:37 and 34 seconds currently reported here. So that means that the counts reset at 4:30. So for 7 minutes and 30 seconds, there's been 16 vehicles on phase 1, 31 vehicles, the next lane, 37, the next lane, and 41 in that lane. If you continue and follow down clockwise down to the bottom left here, you'll see the current intersection name. And right above that, you'll see something that's pretty critical, and that's the InSync scheduler. So that's the schedule that InSync is currently expecting to service for those phases. So it's saying that I'm expecting to service the phase pair of eastbound and westbound, followed by eastbound and eastbound left at this given instant. So it's a dynamic scheduler that can change every second, but it's saying at this instant, this is what I'm expecting to service in the near future. So there's timestamps in there as well as states, and those can change once a second if conditions change. All right, if we follow up, keep going clockwise up to the text where it says PED 6. That means that there is a pedestrian phase for phase 6. And currently what that's saying is it's in red text and there's nothing next to it, meaning that it's currently not being serviced and there hasn't been an actuation this current period length through. If you follow it up here to the next row up, you'll see phase 1. And to the right of that, you'll see some numbers. And what those numbers mean, the first digit right there stands for the current queue that it's calculating for that phase. So it's counting 4 vehicles, and there's a comma and another number. So the first one is the real queue, meaning the queue being reported by the camera. The second number is the adjusted queue, which is came up with after any sort of manual adjustments through central sync parameters. In this case, there's not any manual adjustments being made, so that it reports the real queue and the adjusted queue is the same thing. And then if you follow it to the final column there, there's a percentage. And what that means is that there's 40% of the total number of segments currently occupied. So it means there's 40% occupancy on that phase. If we move up a row, you'll see for phase 6, there's a current queue, just like there was for phase 1, as well as a percent occupancy. But in addition to that, there's a call text. And what that means is that InSync is currently calling that phase and currently sending that phase's call to the controller, meaning the controller will be receiving that call, but not any other call. So if you look at this, all 4 camera views, you'll see that there's only 2 phases with call text. Phase 2 and phase 6, meaning that only phase 2 and 6 is being called in the controller currently. If you follow that row over to the right, you'll see that there is a counter, or a number and a time to start. In this particular case, that's representing the tunnel for phase 6. So what it's saying is it's expecting the tunnel to start in 12 seconds. Likewise, if the tunnel has already started, as it has down here on phase 2, you'll see a time to end. In this case, 26 seconds to end. Remember that with a tunnel phase, InSync can always start the phase prior to the tunnel actually starting, as well as it can shrink the tunnel or extend the tunnel locally at each intersection based on the conditions that it sees. Okay, and then the next thing I wanted to show you with the PEDs is whenever a PED is triggered and actuated, you'll see a triggered text along with a number to the right of that. So currently PED 3 has been actuated, and they've been waiting there for 70 seconds. So that counts up, and once they're served, they'll get a walk signal and they'll proceed through. Okay, all right, so the next area I'd like to go over on this multi-camera view is the manual controls button in the top right. So if you click the manual controls, it brings up a dialog box with a variety of different buttons. The first column you see here, labeled Force Presence, allows you to manually place a constant detection presence for each phase. So if you were to click and turn this on, it would leave phase 1 actuated constantly until you would turn that off. The middle column is for manual calls. So manual calls is a little bit more invasive than a force presence would be. A force presence is just putting a constant detection there, whereas a manual call is actually filtering the calls being sent to the controller. So if I were to click phase 1 and turn it on, that would be the only call that would be going to the controller, meaning that you can keep that phase green for however long that you leave that on button enabled. So manual calls are generally used for incident management or anything where you need to go in there and manually control the intersection. The final column here is for pedestrian actuations. If you need to manually place an actuation remotely, you can go in here and press the pedestrian button. Finally, at the bottom, there's the Disable Adaptive button, and that allows you to disable adaptive operation and return to detector mode operation, where InSync passes all the detection calls straight to the controller and lets the controller control the intersection. So that's the multi-camera view. If we move to the next one on the views menu, you have the single camera view. So in the single camera view, you'll see that you have a variety of different buttons at the bottom. You can reboot the camera, you can grab a background, you can toggle emergency mode, which places the intersection into historical green split operation, or you can override fog mode. There's also a button down here for record video, and I'll get to that next. If you want to record video, that is up to the agency. InSync does not do any recording by default, and it is disabled by default, but the functionality is there if you would like to record video. If you would like to, you plug in a USB thumb drive or hard drive into the processor in the cabinet, and once you've done that, it'll bring up a list of drives that you can record to. So in this case, if I wanted to record to the D drive, you can click the Add Recording event, and you have a variety of different options to configure your recording. You can configure the frame rate, which camera you want to record, whether you want it to be just a specific date that you're recording, or if you want it to be a recurring recording. You can set the time of day that you want it to occur, as well as the duration. Additionally, this screen estimates how much hard drive space this recording will take. So if you increase the duration, it'll give you a live update of the estimated hard drive space that it'll take up. And that's the InSync Views menu. In the next segment, we'll be talking about the reporting and statistics.